digital products and do this at scale? Like, what conditions would be ideal for that to occur? So what I'm doing is I'm shifting a problem that you're bringing to me into what we call the solution frame, right? So you have to make considerations. Like, we're teaching everybody everything we can on a broad spectrum. So we're going to show you every possible avenue and every consideration, and that's good. It's good that Iman and I do that for you. So we give you options, and we reach, because we're reaching thousands and thousands of people from all kinds of backgrounds and stuff. It is your job to then filter that through and delete what doesn't make sense to you and keep what makes sense to you. So if you are going to contact people, then you're going to say, well, how many people a day should I contact to feel like I'm accomplishing something? And if it's 10, then you say, okay, well, how much time do I want to allocate for that task? And if it's 2 hours, then there's your answer. I got to contact 5 an hour. That means 1 every 12 minutes. So I have to build a system that allows for me to uncover somebody worth contacting every 12 minutes. You feel me, right? Now, if you said I want to do this in 60 minutes, then the answer is I got to contact somebody every 6 minutes that fulfills that system. So it's whatever you want it to be, and both of those will have answers to it. So this is something you have to get in the habit of disciplining yourself to do. You assume that it can be done, and then you create the conditions on how it will be done, and then you test those conditions. And if those conditions come back overwhelmingly positive, congratulations, you just won. If they come back horrendously negative, congratulations, you're one step closer because we're going to try a different system. If they show promise, but they're not quite there yet, then we tinker, then we adjust, and we can try it again. So the iterative cycle is the difference I find between successful people and people that struggle more than anything. Like, we have to create something, test it, and then we're unlikely to be right with it immediately. So we have to adjust and we have to iterate on it. And this is always true. This is true in this very specific challenge that you're seeing right here. This is an iteration. This is one of several hundred or thousand iterations that we've performed over the life cycle of this challenge, which is an iteration of the previous challenge, which is an iteration of the previous challenge, right? Iterations don't end. In fact, they compound with success. But get in the habit of being okay with, hey, I'm going to try this out, I'm going to see what happens, and I'm going to make an adjustment. So we're giving you the best recipes, but then you have to determine which recipes you like the most to test, and then you have to adjust them to taste, because maybe you don't want as much salt in yours, or maybe you want some more of this other ingredient over here, or this thing won't work for you, but this other one will work for you. So this is how we navigate it. You have to filter the general advice we give here to your specific circumstance. Neither one is good enough. You need both. You need our advice here, plus you're filtering to your specific circumstance, and then the iterative feedback loop. This is one of the reasons, and this isn't a pitch for Monetize right now, this is in general why it's important for you to know that you should be investing in coaching, and you should be investing in ways to have somebody else help you with this feedback loop. A coach is an incredible asset that will A, hold you accountable to your plan, A, actually help you build your plan, B, hold you accountable to your plan, and C, give you feedback and help you accelerate and optimize the iterative process. And so this is why it just frustrates me so much, Iman, when people on the outside looking in, they're like, oh, why would anybody ever sell anything on like coaching and education and information?
I have a coach for literally everything.
Yeah.
I was with my tennis coach earlier today. I have literally any skill I have to learn. Like, I'll give you a very stupid, funny example. I'm sure many of you guys know, my best friends, one of my best friends, Alex, who does all of our creative campaigns between all the different businesses. Alex is releasing a book soon, and like passing in conversation, one day I was like, yeah, and when we launch your book, I'll DJ. I'm the last person on earth that would ever fucking DJ. And I'm not into that stuff at all. And I was like, yeah, I'll DJ. And then now, we've actually, our factory, I think production will be done with the production in 30 days. So a book should launch in about 6 weeks or so. And Alex, told me a month ago, he's like, yeah, you're gonna, you made a promise, you're gonna do a set. So I'm like, okay, I have about 6 weeks to learn how to DJ because I promised him. And I'm one of those people, if I make a promise, I stick to it. And what I do, the first thing I did was I messaged my friends. I was like, guys, does anyone know a DJ coach? So now I literally have a coach to teach you how to DJ because I made this promise to him. And that's to me, the ultimate shortcut. Now, and by the way, I actually even bought some courses.
Yeah.
I started off buying a course. So I bought the course, and then I also got coaching as well. So even to this day, I'm any skill I need to learn, I bought courses on 101 different things. Like I've even bought courses and digital products. I've, infinite amount of digital products in the form of Kindle books. That's still a digital product. Sometimes I'll just buy like 5 or 10 books. Like I'll be like, oh, I want to get better at this specific thing, and I'll buy like 5 or 10 digital products on it and park it. I do it as well sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I'm busy right now, but I have this motivation. And I don't know if this is interesting for you guys or not, but sometimes when you get that, like, you're like, you know what, now's the moment. Like now I feel compelled to do something. And when I get that feeling, I'm like, let me go find a bunch of digital products on this thing. Let me buy it now because I'm not going to get this feeling back again. And, I'll buy it and then I'll park it for like a time when, in my case, I am like genuinely very, very busy at times. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to lock in and capture this feeling right now. And I'm going to lock in and capture this feeling by making a commitment to this thing. And then in a week or 2 weeks, I'm going to come back to this. And now I already have a level of sunk cost, even though it's like, for me, I'm, in a fortunate position where it's a small amount of money, but still I'm like, I've made this commitment to myself. Like I've paid for this thing. So like I have to follow through now. So when you get that, like, it's true. Inspiration and motivation is fleeting. Okay. Inspiration and motivation is fleeting. So for me, whenever I have those like flurries of inspiration or motivation, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make something happen here. Like I try to lock that in whatever way you can. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you always need to throw down with your wallet, just like some commitment, like something where you're like, okay, I'm going to lock this in right now. So
that's a great point. Yeah.
So you trust me, you need coaches for everything. Okay. I had a coach last year. I spent $250,000 for 12 calls.
I bet it was worth it.
The funniest thing, that individual introduced me to one lawyer, and that was worth the entire thing.
Yeah,
I paid $250,000. I honestly, the God's honest truth is I used about 3 calls. The rest I didn't even use. I got an introduction to one lawyer, and that was more than enough for me for that very specific domain. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this is why we tend to sell these digital products, because we are consumers of these digital products. So it's easy for us to see the full sides of them. So think about that. If you've invested in digital products, bring that into when you sell digital products as well. That'll show up one way or another.
And sorry, real quick, guys. I will leave the stage now with Jason. Can you guys just flood the chat with love for Jason and W's and give him some energy, okay? Because I get the feeling Jason will keep going for hours and hours and hours, depending on how much you hype him up. So make sure you drop a bunch of W's for Jason, a bunch of love for Jason.
Dang, they all just came.
There we go. And I guarantee if you keep the love going, Jason will, 1 hour will blend into 2, then might blend into... anyways, we'll leave you to it.
Thank you so much, my friend.
All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow for the final and probably best session of VIP. And tomorrow's main session genuinely is, it's probably my favorite presentation of the whole thing, and you will want to see it, especially if it's always nice to get a different approach, and you can still get to the same destination, but maybe take a slight different detour. And I think, you'll find it very, very interesting. It's probably one of my favorites.
It's gonna be good.
We'll see you then.
Awesome. Let's give it up for Iman. He's the man that we're all here for, and he's brought us all together. What a wonderful time that we find ourselves in, isn't it? And I appreciate we have 2,111 of you right here on the call. Thank you for the W's as well. Game changer. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I wasn't dressed up today. I wanted to put another shirt on. I have a shirt tomorrow that says Yes Engineer that I'm like, should I wear that or not? Is that too on the nose? But we'll find out. I brought my laptop with me just in case I want to do any show and tells, because occasionally when we talk, it'll jar a memory loose. And then if I have a reference point for it, I can bring it up and I'll show that to you. But otherwise, I don't have like a team clipping questions and feeding them here to me. I have your questions right here on the screen. So I certainly can look at them, but it's a little bit more difficult because it's just me today managing the questions. Where Givenchy, I do, the first date I ever went on with my wife, I had a Givenchy sweater on. So that's always near and dear to my heart. I typically keep it low key though, but occasionally, yeah. Hell yeah. And tomorrow's session is going to be cool. All right. So if I missed your question, go ahead and try to put it back in here as well. And I want to kind of coach you through. There was, I had a flight to catch around that time. Can we please upload the whole session? So we don't do whole sessions, but we do the whole main sessions. And so they're still on the channel, I believe, on Iman's YouTube channel. Yep. But yeah, everybody doesn't. And then the VIPs, you get those sessions as well. Also, you should do Alchemy Itself if you haven't. That's an incredible asset for the VIPs too. How do you get an audience without showing your face? Yeah. So there's so many ways that you can get an audience that there's probably more ways you can get an audience than you could count if you could count to 100. And I could list them all and name them all to you, and that may be useful, but I think is what would be most useful to you is thinking of what the structures and the strategies of getting audiences are. Here's how I personally solve for it. And this is just one of the many ways in which you can solve for how do I get an audience. I say, who is in pain right now? Where do they hang out at? And how can I get in front of them? So see the shift in how we view that? So it's not how can me, Jason Fladlin, find an audience. It's who is in pain, so the reference is on them, not on me. Where are they at, and how do I get in front of them so I can help them get out of the pain that they're currently in and currently experiencing? And this is how I solve all of mine. And when you're starting off, it's better to go for puddles, not oceans. So we can swim in oceans and we don't make much of a splash or a difference. But if we jump in puddles and ponds, we can make splashes. So this simply means that we narrow our audience initially at first. We find the smallest audience possible that we can go after, and we find out where they hang out, and then we show up where they hang out. So one of the places is Facebook groups, believe it or not. There's a lot of people with a shared interest that are in a community, that are in a group, that are struggling right now. And if you made a goal, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask everybody this question, and then you put it in the chat if you feel that this would make sense to you. If every day you just tried to help 20 people with a question that they asked on Facebook and you provided an answer to them, if you did that every day for a month straight, and then only when they replied out to you asking for more help did you ever present them an offer, don't you think you would make money? Don't you think it would be more likely than unlikely that you would make money if every day you just answered 20 questions specifically on a very specific topic to a very specific audience, ask first with nothing to expect in return, and then based upon that service, don't you suppose some of them would want to know more about you? Don't you suppose some of them would click through and find your bio? Don't you suppose that some of them would DM you? Don't you suppose that some of them would go and research you and find your website? Don't you suppose that there would be a way where money would come to you? And yeah, isn't that funny, right? Isn't that interesting? So this is how I'm always solving for these problems. Now, with the proper AI, and I'm not talking ChatGPT, and I'm not talking Gemini, I'm not talking those kind of AIs. With the properly fine-tuned AI, you can answer those questions and be incredibly useful and be incredibly efficient. And it's never just AI, by the way, in my opinion, for now at least, right? If it gets to be just AI, we got bigger problems than making money, boys and girls. So for me, it's AI plus a little bit of that personalization, plus a little bit of that touch sprinkled on top of it, plus just a little bit of fine-tuning, not much, but just a tiny, tiny little bit. I think that we would be good. And then we have a problem, right? And our problem is scale. We're like, okay, well, we can't do that forever. We'll get burned out. So then we say, how do we do that a little bit more efficiently? And then it's really fun because then that's when you can start to make deals with the audience owners, people that own the audiences, especially if you've proved in advance your worth. You can start to advertise to those same people because now you know that you can answer questions they have and they like that. So when you advertise to them, you know what your advertising is going to be more responsive. You can now actually start creating content for the algorithms. So the questions you answered personally to individuals are the same base that can become the content that you create for the masses. Isn't that interesting, right? So people, and you probably have tried this. If you've created content and it hasn't went anywhere, it's because you didn't sanity check it first. You didn't actually put it in front of somebody and see what it did. You just threw it out there in the algorithm, and that's okay. Anything you put out there to try to get somebody to respond to it is a positive behavior, and you should continue to do as much of that as you humanly can. But if we validate it with good information on a personal level first, then we can quickly go global with it second. So local first, global second. This is my attitude on this thing. So when we work on the dozens contain the answer to the millions. So the dozens get the answer to the millions. This is what I'm doing right here. I don't know if you've noticed this. One of the reasons that I've gotten so good in this business is because I have spent more time talking to individuals in my market than probably anybody. Like Iman jokes when he's like, "Oh, Jason, an hour to Jason, yeah, he'll probably go more than an hour." But all good jokes contain truth, right? Like he knows that because I best understand the masses through the individual. I make my millions because I work with people on an individual level, and then I understand what I call the heartbeat of the market. Write that one down. This is like my secret sauce. Once I understand the heartbeat of the market, I pretty soon, for most of you, I know your problems better than you know your problems. I can almost read your thoughts. I can anticipate the challenges that you'll have. It's nothing new to me. It may show up in a slightly different flavor or variety, but it's nothing that I haven't really seen before. And I got this way because I started and I got my hands dirty. I went to the market directly and I started working with the individuals in the market. And then I just kept going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And that's kind of the answer of how we get to the masses. We do it through the individuals. Now, that is only one way, by the way. There are many other ways of doing it. You don't have to do it that way. That is just one way, but you have to pick a way and dedicate a short period of time to it to validate it. So what happens is so many people just start building a little bit of a house, and then they stop, and then they go and they build another little bit of a house, and then they stop and they go and build another little bit of a house. And then you can't put 10 half-built houses together and make a house, right? So you have to dedicate yourself to one path and see what it does. Now you can, if you're crazy like I am, you might be able to dedicate two paths because the AM path, you dedicate the first half of the day to this one, and the PM path, you dedicate the second half of the day to this one. You might have the flexibility to do that. You might have the passion to do that. So you can run two paths, but you have to dedicate to one and complete it before you can dedicate to a second one. I do like running paths in parallel, but you have to be committed. And commitment becomes easier over time, but initially it's rather difficult, isn't it? It's rather difficult to commit to something when it's new to you and when you're unsure of most of the moving parts that are involved in the process. And that is okay. That is how it's supposed to be. So we just make a commitment to a short period of time, and then at the end of that commitment, where there once was confusion, now there's a little bit more understanding, or maybe a lot more understanding. And if you do that enough times, it's inevitable for you to fail. It is an impossibility for you to fail if you commit just in the way that I just described. The only way that would stop you is really bad sickness or death. That is the only way. Otherwise, it is impossible to fail under those circumstances. So that's all I do. Instead of trying to succeed, I say, how do I build a circumstance where it's impossible to fail? Instead of trying to force myself to be successful, I run out of ways in which I can't be successful, and therefore I'm successful. So yeah, and again, for me, it might be easier to do it that way. For you, it might be easier to do it a different way. I get so much energy of talking with you today. I don't know if you've noticed that. Like, this is not just for a paycheck, right? Like, I literally feel more of Jason when I'm done with these sessions than when I started. Like, you fulfill me. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but it's also the truth. And so this is a valid strategy for me because it's empowering to me, independent of its results. And so at first, if you don't have one of those, you can try a couple different strategies, but you should gravitate towards the strategy that you draw energy from, because then it's not work anymore. Then it's just a natural extension of who you are, and this is how you will meet with success sooner rather than later. So some of you're like, I can't get in front of a camera, I won't get in front of a camera, and that's you today, and that was me once upon a time as well. So we don't pick those strategies. Why should we fight against something that is incredibly hard? We say, okay, how do we win under circumstances where that's not required? And that's where the faceless, non-expert digital products come into place. Now, that's a different learning curve. You're like, I'm not familiar with those. I'm unaware of those. So then you have to become aware of those, and you become familiar with those, and then you use those. And then you might discover along the way, hey, it's not so bad to be a face. And then you can add that to your repertoire. Or you might like, hey, I like it the way it is. And then you just find ways to improve it. This is a really simple process when you remove the emotion. But we can never entirely remove the emotion, can we? So we manage the emotion and then we add the best parts of it. Yeah. So no, the only sales that are tracked are the sales of WAP for the monetized challenge. Yeah. Give us the best piece of advice you can, business or personal or business. Okay. I will give you the advice as I see it. Okay. You can take it or you can leave it. You can borrow parts from it, You can do whatever you want with it. So my personal hierarchy of relationships. So I think everything in life can be measured in relationships. And the quality of those relationships determine the value of your life. And so for me, the highest relationship is with my Creator, the spiritual being that I have a direct relationship. So this is who should be put first. If it's put first properly, then I seem to do good. If it's not put first, then I have some struggles, right? So that's the relationship with the Creator first, and the relationship to self second. So you are the most important person in your life, at least in this world. So if you can't show up for somebody else, then that's a problem. So you have to work on yourself so you can show up for somebody else. You feel me? And so that's the second relationship. So it goes God, it goes you, and then it goes your significant other, if you have one. If not, then maybe that makes sense for you to eventually have the right partner. And then after that, it goes children. So for me, then the children's, the relationship with the children's that I have, and then everybody else, right? So that is my relationship. And then if I prioritize that, everything else gets taken care of. Because, your relationship with the Creator it shows you who your essence is. How your relationship is how you should show up in the world. So that gives you a clue. Now, you can try any number of occupations and they will work well for you if you're in your essence. But you ever heard the Einstein quote? If you judge a fish by how it can climb a tree, you will determine it's a stupid fish, right? So if you're supposed to swim and you're out there climbing trees, everybody will think you're an idiot, including yourself. So we have to find the essence in which you best operate. And then we have to take care of you. We have to find the conditions that bring the most you out of you possible. Now, this is very, very calculated language that I've worked on for many years, decades, in fact. I didn't say you need to become someone else. I said you need to become more of who you already are. So the big problem with a lot of personal development that gets you stuck is you are literally trying to kill who you are, at least in that sense, and be somebody else. Generally, you try to be somebody else. This is how most people want to develop personally. They want to say, I want to be more like that person, and I want to be like that person, and they aspire, and they have all these models. Most of them are malignant, by the way. If you don't know that person personally and you can't see them both behind the stage and in front of that stage, it's very dangerous to know exactly who that individual is. Ask me how I know. I mean, because I know everybody, right? So who you see on the front stage is not always who you see on the backstage. And vice versa. Some of the most incredible people in the world are so secure in who they are, they have no desire to broadcast it to the public, right? So we have to be able to know, if we're going to model somebody holistically, who that person is. This is really important. So I don't ever want to churn you into somebody else. I want you to become more of who you already are. And maybe that's semantics, and maybe I'm very subtle in that communication, but I think that that's really important. I want to turn you more into who you already are, because that presupposes that within you is everything you fucking need to be everything you want to be. And that's not this violent, let's fight against ourselves. Because if we create friction within ourselves, that makes it very difficult. That's like driving a vehicle with a foot on a gas and a foot on a brake, right? This is, by the way, if you just really want to observe, like I come in here and I have fun with you. We do the training. I show up. I give you everything I have. I go hard, and then I go home, right? I don't need to be on the gram every day. This is why my social media sucks, right? I have no desire to prove my self-worth to anyone. I am that content in who I am, right? And that is many, many decades of work and a lot of different health things that I've worked on from a lot of different perspectives in order to bring that in. But then because I'm the most me that I can be right now, I can give the most of that to you. Does that resonate? And this is how I show up. And this is how I can connect with you. This is how I can have, a woman who I feel completely and deeply connected to, which then brings more of me out as well, right? And this is how I can show up as a father as well to my children. And then obviously after that, it goes to business, friends, business contacts, etc. So this is how it works if you want to be excellent in as many areas of your life as you possibly can be in. Because I've met a lot of people, like there's this old Bob Marley quote, maybe you've heard of it. Some people are so poor, all they have is money. So you don't want to be that person either, right? This is the personal slash business advice. So you don't have to be the influencer. That is a way, but it doesn't have to be your way. You don't have to be the one that sells expensive digital products. You can sell cheaper digital products and sell more of them. You could be a person that buys your advertising, or you could be a person that generates it organically. You can be a face, or you can be faceless. You can be an expert, or you can be a non-expert, right? But if you are truly right in yourself, then it becomes so easy to take action. It becomes incredibly easy to take action. So, I study everybody that I work with personally, because I always can learn from anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. And so when I work with Iman, I learn from Iman. I learned so much by working next to him. And one of the things I found out tonight, and this is so funny, this is just, and I don't think he ever really mentions this, but they do a lot of these team building exercises, which is good because this is the relationships again. They bring the team together. And he had his teams run marathons. This was one of the ways that they were able to bond. And he had, because he has teams all over the world, he had 3 teams in 3 different countries running 3 different marathons. So Alex was telling me downstairs, because they were running in Santa Monica, and I was laughing. I was like, I think I've seen you guys running up and down the street, because they didn't run like a normal marathon. They ran up and down the street enough to make 26 miles. But Iman just didn't run one of those marathons. He ran all 3 of them, I think, in the span of a week. So he ran it with every single teammate in 3 different locations. I think 3 different continents, perhaps, even if I understood the story correctly. And that's a sign of somebody who shows up. That's a sign of somebody who gives as much of themselves to other people as they possibly can. And that is admirable, and it's inspirational. It makes me want to show up more for my team in a capacity just like that, which is why it's important to be part of the right community. Because there is the set and there is the setting, as you've heard me discuss. There's the mental aspect, which is you, and the mental and the emotional and the spiritual and the physical. And then there's also